You're sitting in your kitchen, laptop on the table, a mug of cold tea. Silence. And then a thump. Not loud, like a book falling from a shelf you don't even have. You turn around. On the rug, an envelope. Worn. Yellow. It smells of wax and dust. Your address is on it. And the date, 1850. You don't believe your eyes. You open it. Inside, thick paper, covered in calligraphy. You read the first lines 3 times because they hit you right in the mind. If you're reading this, it means they still haven't taught you to think for yourself. That's dangerous. We already burned one woman over a single letter. You could be next. Don't laugh. In 1850, we still remember how to do this. Decode the word mageia. Save yourself. Sincerely, your familiar stranger. You don't know Greek, but you feel it. That letter has already entered your world. Through the internet, through the news, through what you call obvious. In this episode of the Archive of Hidden Facts, we become a time post office. I'm your decoder. We'll open this letter word by word. We'll learn how one letter in the Bible almost sent a woman to the stake. And we'll understand that some typos don't just kill meaning, they kill people. Hold on to your chair. We're opening the envelope. Una letra. So, our letter begins with a warning about the word mageia. The author writes, in 1487, the Inquisitors received a gift. They called it the Hammer of Witches. Everything you know about witchcraft is made up, except one word. It's in Exodus 22:18. Saint Jerome made this mistake in the 5th century, or maybe someone before him. But we remember the burnings. What word? Here it is. In the original Hebrew of Exodus 22:18, the word is mekashifa. What does it mean? Scholars still argue, but the closest translation is a woman who whispers spells, someone who binds with words. Then comes the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, made in the 3rd century BC in Alexandria. It translates mekashifa as Pharmakeia, and that is clear. Preparation of poisons, poisoning, sorcery through potions. By the way, Pharmakeia is where the modern word pharmacy comes from. See the irony? Now, Saint Jerome in Bethlehem between 390 and 405 AD translates the Old Testament into Latin. He creates the Vulgate, the Bible that would be Europe's main text for 1,000 years. In Exodus, he simply uses maleficos, wizards, evildoers, but in other parts of the New Testament, he gets confused. In Galatians 5:20, the Apostle Paul originally writes Pharmakeia. Jerome translates it as maleficum, witchcraft. But in some manuscripts, mageia appears, or mageia, one letter, one concept swapped for another. Do you understand how dangerous this replacement is? Because Pharmakeia is about substances, about herbs, about real roots you can smell and touch. But mageia? That's about a pact with the devil, about something supernatural, something you cannot verify, but you can accuse. The author of the letter tucks a faded copy into the envelope. A trial transcript, Bamberg, Germany, 1627. An herbalist's interrogation. Question: why did you give mandrake root to a sick woman? Answer: so she would stop coughing. I've collected herbs since I was a child. My grandmother taught me. Question: do you admit to using witchcraft? Answer: no. It's just a root. People put it in soup for coughs. Question: recorded, accused of maleficium. Verdict: the stake. You read it and feel a chill, because your grandmother also uses herbs, because there's a jar of chamomile in your cupboard, because the difference between medicine and witchcraft is just the binding of the book that the judge happens to be reading.
Gentru.
Who is this man warning you from 1850? Most likely, a Protestant pastor. someone who read the work of a Jesuit named Friedrich Spee, the same Spee who, in 1631, wrote Cautio Criminalis, warning to judges. He was the first to say, "Witches don't fly," and all confessions were obtained under torture. Spee personally confessed burned women before they died. He knew their names. Or maybe it's a country doctor, someone who saw with his own eyes hundreds of women executed for the same herbs he uses to heal his own patients. The letter says, "We still burn botany books. Not in public squares, inside ourselves. I destroyed my own herbarium when the bishop summoned me. He said, 'Your collection smells of witchcraft.' I didn't argue. For him, an herbarium is not just a collection, it's a criminal case. For him, a plant is almost an indictment. Why is he writing you in 2026? Because he senses a different world. A world where pharmacies are on every corner, where herbal tea is sold in supermarkets. But he doesn't know the main thing. Fear never went anywhere. He writes, "You will laugh at us. You'll say, 'How could they burn a woman over chamomile?' But I answer, 'You also burn. You just call it fact-checking, cancel culture, filtering. You're just afraid of different words. Same meaning. We are terrified of what we don't understand.' For him, the stake was the end of the world. For us, a scary story in a textbook, flipped past in the section Europe in the 17th century. But for us, execution in the comments, public shaming, blocking for dissent. That's not a stake? Oh right, we don't smell like smoke. Our smoke is digital, no smell. So we're not burning anyone, right? Historical numbers. From 1450 to 1750, Europe executed between 40,000 and 60,000 people for witchcraft. 75 to 80% were women. In some regions of Germany, like the bishopric of Bamberg, over just 20 years, 1623 to 1643, more than 600 people were executed. The landscape literally emptied. 10 to 20 people burned every month. And the charge was often just knowing herbs. One woman said during interrogation, "I gave my neighbor a wormwood decoction for her stomach pain." They burned her. And do you know why so many confessed? Because torture devices were creative. The Spanish boot crushed legs until bones cracked. The rack pulled joints out of their sockets. Torturers knew, hang a woman by her bound hands, weights on her feet. She will talk in 15 minutes. She will say anything. Witch, sabbat, broomstick flight. Whatever you want, just take me down. That's medieval fact-checking. Doesn't go well with a smile, does it? Dear, you didn't sign your name. I'll call you Thomas. You doubted. We get it. You were wrong about one thing. You thought that simply pointing out the mistake would make people stop. They didn't. In the 18th century, the stakes went cold. But the fear of foreign knowledge remained. It just moved into other buildings, courtrooms, newsrooms, comment sections. One letter in the law can kill. And not just one person. The truth is, the women you burned were not witches. They were healers. Their magic ingredients: newt's eye, mustard seeds, bat's wool, holly leaves, dragon's blood, datto, tree resin. These are just ordinary plants, not a flight. It was psychoactive ointments: belladonna, henbane, datura, monkshood. Women rubbed these on their skin, often on the broom handle itself, the most absorbent part. The alkaloids entered their bodies. They fell into a trance. They felt like they were flying. For them, it was a flight. For us, it's a medical fact. You wrote, "Your power is denying you're just like us. You don't burn people? What is internet shaming then? You don't tear pages from books? What about banned lists in your universities? You just swapped firewood for hate. But the fire is the same." And here I am, sitting with this letter, answering you, Thomas. Yes, we don't burn, but we block, we cancel, we silence. Not for knowing herbs, but for knowing ideas. Difference? Different smoke. Same outcome. You would say, did you learn not to burn? Or did you just learn to call the stakes by a different name? I don't know what to answer. I only know one thing. We can go back to the original. You only had the Vulgate. We have the internet, databases, Greek manuscripts online, and the right to say, this is a translation error, burn N01. But that right, you have to prove it every single day. Otherwise, someone will write another hammer of witches, just in the form of memes. You are holding this letter right now, and it's not about the Middle Ages. It's about how one typo becomes a law, how a law becomes a sentence, how a sentence becomes flames. What does this letter teach us about human nature, that we are lazy about checking things? It's easier to believe in magic than in pharmacy, because magic is exciting, and pharmacy, a boring school blackboard. The secret of survival is not in power. It's in the question. Always ask again, what does the original actually say? Right now, as you read the news, you have your own Bible, your own devil's words, your own witches. Don't let yourself be deceived. If you could write back to that man from 1850, what would you say? Maybe this. Thank you. We don't burn women anymore, but sometimes we burn dejectively on Facebook. We haven't figured it out yet, but we're trying. May your faith in botany protect you. Or this. We're still afraid, but now we have fact-checking. Too bad it sometimes works like a new hammer of witches. Instead of the rack, a trust rating. And if you want to know how one letter turned a wise woman into a witch and an herbalist into the devil's accomplice, subscribe to the Archive of Hidden Facts with a smile. We have more unopened letters in the archive. The next one? About the Pirates of the Caribbean. Spoiler. Actually, no spoiler. I'll just say this. Jack Sparrow would not be jealous, because real pirates turned out to be someone you'd least expect in that image. No romance, no swords in teeth, but something scarier than the Jolly Roger, and funnier at the same time. Want to know who sea robbers really were? And why people are still afraid of them even though they've been museum pieces for 300 years? Then stick around. That's the hidden truth. The scariest people in history often turn out to be nothing like their legend. Sometimes they're, well, you'll see for yourself. Until the next envelope, darling. This is Svetlana. Segment, Hidden Facts in History, 10th to 19th century. On the back, a postscript almost erased. P.S. If you meet a woman picking chamomile, bow to her. She's not a witch. And if you meet a pirate, don't laugh. Maybe he just budgets better than you. The end? No. To be continued.